Good morning again, Year 5 and 6. Today we're going to be looking at ways to add fractions with different denominators. You already know how to add them where they've got the same denominator, so 1/4 add 1/4 equals 2/4. But if you look at this problem, you can see the problem is you've got different denominators. So we can't add these fractions until we have what we call a common denominator. And a common denominator is where we're going to have them so they look the same. So what we need to do here is we need to look at this one's in thirds and this one's in sixths. And we need to turn them so they're in the same, they have the same denominator. So what we do here is we think about our 6 times table and our 3 times table, and I'm just going to write those out for us now. So we're going to start off with our 6 times table, and I'm just going to write out a couple of multiples from my 6 times table, and then I'm going to look at my 3 times table and I'm going to write out the multiples there: 3, 6, 9, 12. And what we're looking for is we're looking for a number that's in both times tables. In this case, the common denominator, it could be 12, but we're going to make it 6 because that's going to make it easier. So what we do is we're going to turn both of these calculations, so the fractions look like they're in sixths. Now this one, 1/6, well that is just 1/6, so that stays the same. You don't need to do anything to that one. But this one is related to what we were doing last week with our equivalent fractions. So what we need to do is we need to go think, what will 2/3 look like as an equivalent fraction out of sixths? Now the way we often show you to do this is, how do I get from 3 to 6? Well, to get from 3 to 6 you're going to times by 2. And so whatever you do to the bottom, the denominator, you're going to do the same to the top. So 2 times 2 is 4. If I write that out underneath, you might be able to see that they are equivalent fractions. 2/3 is exactly the same as 4/6 because all we've done is we've times both the top and the bottom by 2, and so it's the same. It looks different, but it's the same fraction. So now it's much more straightforward because I'm just going to add together 4/6 and 1/6, which will give me the denominators are the same, so I just add along the top. So that's going to give me 4 add 1 is 5, and the denominator is going to stay the same, so it's still in sixths. So the answer to 2/3 add 1/6 is 5/6. And that's the first question on the sheet for some of the Year 5s today. We'll look at another question now. This one is the same. We're going to use the same process. So we need to find a common denominator for 12 and for 4. So I'm going to write out, I've nearly given the answer away there, I'm going to write out my 4 times table, 4, 8, 12, and hopefully you can see that when I write out my 12s, I'm going to have the 12 in there. So the denominator there, the common denominator, is going to be 2. It's important to write your add sign because tomorrow we'll be looking at take away and it's remembering what to do with those. Right, so I'm going to look 11/12 and bring it down here. Well, it's just the same, isn't it? So it stays the same as 11/12. It's this one I'm going to have to do something with. So I think to myself, how do I get from 4 to 12? Well, how many 4s go into 12? It's 3. So I'm timesing it by 3, multiplying by 3. So the numerator, I'm also going to times by 3. 1 times 3 is, answer it at home, of course, it's 3. Okay, so now we have 11/12 and 3/12. Now, I'm just going to run out of room a bit there, but we're going to write that down as 14/12. Now, if that's all you can do, leave it like that, don't worry about it, but hopefully some of you will remember that 14/12 is a top-heavy fraction or an improper fraction, and to turn that into a mixed fraction, what we do is we take 14, we divide it by 12. How many 12s go into 14? It is 1, remainder 2. but we can express that or say that as a mixed fraction. You've got 1 whole and 2 14ths. Now, if you're not sure about how to do that last process, don't worry about it. You can message your teacher on eSchools, or you can just leave it as it is there. Okay, some of you will be doing that kind of question with some improper fractions. The final one we're going to look at is where you're adding more than 2 fractions. So to do that, we've got 2, 4 and 8 as our denominators. So we're just going to write out. Now I'm sure some of you can see what the common denominator is going to be. It's going to be 2, 4, 6, 8. Okay, 4 and 8 and of course 8. You can see that if you count it in 2s you get to 8, if you count it in 4s you get to 8, if you count it in 8s you get to 8 of course. So our common denominator is going to be 8. Okay, and they're all being added together. So that one we copy down because it's just 1/8, isn't it? This one, we think, how do I get from 4 to 8? Well, I times that by 2, multiply by 2. So the numerator is going to be, have a think, yeah, it's going to be 2. Now this one here, I'm going from 2 to 8, so I'm multiplying by 4. And I'm going from 1 times by 4 is 4. So now I have 4 8s, add 2 8s, add 1 8, add the 4 and the 2 and the 1 will give you 7 8s. Some of your questions that look like this might involve having, like we did earlier, some top-heavy fractions that you might need to cancel, turn into mixed fractions. I hope that helps. If you're unsure, message us on eSchools and we'll give you a hand. Good luck with your fractions. Thank you.